I know. We've talked about Columbus a lot. I want to talk about Columbus again because really what's going on with Columbus right now, and of course everybody's focusing on the Dubois thing, I think there's a lot more here going on than just Pierre-Luc Dubois. And I know people are going to circle back and they're going to say, this is John Tortorella. Here's the thing. Columbus has been in the playoffs continually, and I think Tortorella deserves some credit for that. Yes, Tortorella's abrasive at times, and I know that that may rub players the wrong way. Sometimes it rubs the reporters the wrong way as well. So that'll affect how the media reports on him at times, right? Where if they don't like the guy, they might say something about him that they might let go if it was a different coach. But when we look at the depth right now, and you look at the lack of scoring overall, so everybody focuses on Dubois, right? One goal, he gets benched in the first period, doesn't play the rest of the game. Let's focus on him. But Grigorenko only has one assist. When they signed him to bring him back, I thought, it's worth a shot, but he never showed first line potential anywhere else. Atkinson, one assist. Slow start, he's capable of scoring. We'll see if he's able to get that back. Then you've got Jenner, 2 goals and 1 assist. Boone Jenner's had a good start to the season, and Domi at 2 assists. Now keep in mind, when he went to Columbus, I said, all right, well, if he's on the wing, maybe. I'm still not sold on him as a center. We'll see whether or not he's able to make that work in Columbus. And Nick Foligno's off to a decent start with 2 goals. But this is where it gets interesting. So this line has kind of been their scoring line, right? The Domi line has been their scoring line, their best line offensively, where the Dubois line has been an issue. So it's, yes, Pierre-Luc Dubois stands out. Yeah, he stood around. He had a bad shift, and there were a number of bad shifts. And according to Tortorella today, this is a situation that's just degraded to this point. And then I'll get over to this side of the board so we can discuss this further. But their third line, you've got Foudy with an assist. He's generating opportunities. He's going to start scoring. Texier, who's been pretty darn good, 3 goals and 1 assist. And Bjorkstrand, 2 goals, 3 assists. Bjorkstrand, MVP so far for Columbus. So these 2 lines have scored relatively well. Again, it underlines that the first line really hasn't got it done. And then the fourth line, no offense. Robinson, Nash, Bemstrom, no points from them. Not all that unexpected from Nash and Robinson, a little bit from Bemstrom. But Bemstrom on that fourth line is limited opportunity and limited minutes. But then you get to the blue line and you really see how there's a dearth of scoring right now. Werenski, fat goose egg for him offensively. Jones, same. Gavrikov, same. Savard, 1 assist for Savard so far this season. Del Zotto, their best defenseman so far at 3 assists. Del Zotto's their best defenseman. He's playing well, but it shows that when he's your best defenseman so far and you've got Werenski, Jones, and Gavrikov, well, and Gavrikov is more of a defensive-minded defenseman, so you're not as upset with a 0 from him, but the Werenski and Jones zeros are a problem. And then Kukan has an assist so far. Korpisalo, 1-1-1 is his record, 935 save percentage. They've wasted a couple of really good starts from hhim. And then Merzlikins 0-1-1 with an 867 save percentage. If his numbers are a struggle to start with, and they were a struggle last year, it's easy to forget. At the time Korpisalo gets hurt last season, we all kind of collectively went, well, there goes Columbus's hopes. Korpisalo was playing great. And the numbers that were being posted by Merzlikins prior to the injury for Korpisalo were problematic. And then Korpisalo is forgotten about because Merzlikins went on this great shutout streak. And so they became part of this great story. They got Columbus into a playoff spot. They knocked off the Toronto Maple Leafs in the play-in round. They pushed Tampa, kind of, sort of, but Tampa Bay, clearly with their mind for revenge from the year before, takes them out. But the other notable thing with Columbus is that on the injured reserve right now, they have Nyquist and Koivu. Now, Koivu is not going to provide a bunch of goals, but he's helped down the middle, right? So you can allow one of these guys in the middle here. I'm thinking Texier to end up on the wing, maybe Nash. And then for Nyquist is a top 6 winger. So they're definitely missing him right now. And having Grigorenko on the top 6 might be a sign that, and again, these lines move around. These lines are going to change. It's Tortorella. It's going to be, all right, well, who isn't working tonight? All right, well, we'll move them around. So it's a fluid situation. The way that Columbus is set up is basically 3 scoring lines, a 4th checking line, and then having the offense from your top two blue liners, Werenski and Jones, who are both going to play about half the game. And with Dubois struggling, distracting us from the other detractors on the team, the fact that they're just not generating offense enough as it is through 5 games from almost anybody who's not Texier or Bjorkstrand, right? So when we look at the Columbus story, it really goes back to 2019 right now. So 2019 at the trade deadline, they're all in, right? And Dzingel's brought in, Duchesne's brought in, and we knew that it was Panarin and Bobrovsky's final year. Now, in the press conference today, John Tortorella said they sat down with Panarin, they sat down with Bobrovsky, they knew where this was at. And they were professionals. So while they were free agents to be, they went out, they played their hearts out, and they did everything they could to help Columbus succeed. The insinuation from that being it's not the same with Dubois. Now, it's not the same with Dubois because he's not a free agent. He's a young player. And also what's kind of in there in the words from Tortorella is the idea that there are young players in the league, that there might be a sense of entitlement, maybe a sense of, I want to do that. That's my job. And push out a veteran that the coach would rather see in that role because they trust him more. And, you know, one example I use is Laine, where Laine at times in Winnipeg has probably wanted more than the coach and management want to give him because they trust somebody in that role. We already have somebody doing that. So while he may be saying, look, I want that role, they already have somebody doing that. You kind of have to accept the role you're given when you're a younger player. And then you get the experience, you get the trust of the coach, and then you move your way up. And Tortorella's old school this way. The idea that you just hand it to them. It's not going to happen with him. So if he doesn't think the effort is there, then he'll just give Domi the top spot. He'll give Texier one of the top spots. Texier's been getting better. And he has had no shortage of praise for Texier. He's also been willing to criticize Texier, but Texier's been willing to work on it. You know, early in the season, criticism for a couple of plays here and there, and he admits, yep, I need to work on that and get better, and the numbers tell you he's doing very well. I like Alexander Texier very much. Now, the interesting thing is we go back to 2019, and when these players all leave, so they all decide we're not staying in Columbus. So Nashville, Carolina, New York, Florida, they all go different locations, right? And the expectation last year was, well, Columbus, it's done, right? They're easily the pick to finish last in the Metro, maybe 7th in the Metro at best, right? Maybe they beat out New Jersey, but they're going to be near or at the bottom of the Metro. And with working as a team and with having amazing goaltending, this team was able to claw and scratch its way into both respectability and a playoff spot. And then in the play-ins, they did very well against Toronto, and by which I mean goaltending was excellent against Toronto. The Columbus Blue Jackets knocked out the Toronto Maple Leafs via having that better goaltending, which is not an insult to Freddie Anderson. It's a compliment to Korpisalo and Merzlikins. What's happened so far this year is they're not scoring enough to overcome the goals that are being allowed by, in the case of Merzlikins, where he's 0-1-1, his save percentage is below 900. Korpisalo's been fine. But you look at last night against Tampa, that to me was just, Tampa was just the better team. Tampa's just a better team than Columbus. So while it's fine to look at this and say, all right, well, you know, maybe what do they have to get for Dubois? Well, if you're Kekalainen and you're looking at what you may get for Dubois and what you're going to look for Pierre-Luc Dubois, you have to get a center. And the reason I say that is because, you know, they traded out Anderson, they traded out Murray. They traded Murray for the cap space to bring somebody in, which that was a mixed bag in terms of what they were able to get in there. And then Anderson, they traded out to Montreal in exchange for Domi with the idea that Domi would be that player down the middle that they need. They're not going to trade Dubois and not want to get a center back. And not only that, it should be a center who is capable of playing a top 3 role immediately. So it might be a second-line center. Maybe what they've seen of Domi already, they say, no, we'll give Domi a shot at the first line. The other part of it is, I think this would be an acquisition that when it happens, I would think Jarmo would sit down with Tortorella. because it is his team. And I don't get the sense that unless this is a complete and total disaster for the whole season, I can't see Tortorella being in position to lose his job. I don't see that happening. Tortorella, in my eyes, the way that he coached this team last year is the only reason they make the playoffs. I think he deserves a lot of credit for the fact they made the playoffs, for the fact they were able to get past that first round. And we are definitely early enough in the season. This can be corrected. You can see Werenski still start scoring points. Jones starts scoring points. Foodie start getting that in the net. And before you know it, everything's going really well. The question marks for me are, can Grigorenko produce in the National Hockey League? And I think that's still a question. You look through his NHL career, that's been the question all the way through. And how far do you let this Dubois thing go before you say, all right, we have to make a move? The one thing that's interesting, too, with Columbus is, of course, when they went all in at the deadline in 2019, they traded out draft picks. They traded out some of their future, right? Now, when you look at their top prospects now, and you look at who might be able to help them up front, you have Shinahov, who played very well at the World Juniors for the Russian team. He's a number 21 pick in 2020, but he's not projected to be on the Columbus roster anytime soon. You have Kirill Marchenko, who's drafted 49th overall in 2018. He's a winger. Maybe he's good enough to come over and play for them over the next couple years. And then if you're looking for a center, the top-rated center they have is Dmitry Voronkov, who is a number 114 pick in 2019. So based on where he's drafted and when, odds are it's at least a couple of years. Columbus, not just looking for a top center, I would think that with Dubois and how young he is and the potential he still has, you would want to add not just a center for now, but probably a center for later as well. So at the very least, you're looking to get two assets, one that can be on the roster right now and probably a top-notch prospect for later. You may also want to pick up some depth, either up front or on the blue line, and have a throw-in. I do think, Josh Anderson, not as he played last season, but the Josh Anderson from the year before with 27 goals, the Josh Anderson who's been playing in Montreal so far this year, this is a team that could really use Josh Anderson. The problem was they weren't willing to spend the money that Montreal did for the term that Montreal did. And so he moves on. They end up with Domi, who signed for money with Columbus that Montreal didn't want to part with, especially since Montreal felt that with Suzuki and Kotkaniemi developing, they didn't really need Domi. And here we are. So there's a lot of talk about Montreal. Montreal would make some sense, but for Montreal to work, they would have to work out a deal with Danault before the trade. There would have to be something in writing to agree to an extension with Danault. You don't want to get Philippe Danault. And here's the thing. If you're Montreal, I know Habs fans are going to be all over it. The Habs should not trade Philippe Danault for Pierre-Luc Dubois. And here's why. He's a UFA this coming summer, sure. But Montreal has something really good going on, and Danault's been a big part of it. He may not have as many points as other guys on the team, but if you lose Danault, and if you trade out another top prospect, and you get back Dubois, there's tremendous risk in that. And while, Dubois may end up being great for Montreal, that's a move I'm more willing to make maybe in the offseason. But in the offseason, by the time we get there, well, Danault, he's UFA and you can get him for nothing during the summer anyways. So while Montreal would be the most logical place for Dubois because people see that trade being there, I can see issues with that. Not only that, but then you have the 14-day quarantine coming in from the States too. So to be 2 weeks before Dubois even joins Montreal, and they be down Danault, who is a really good two-way center, and Dubois doesn't have that same two-way center reputation. He may very well get there, but he doesn't have that yet. So Columbus is fascinating where they're normally not a fascinating team, because I can see a lot of issues here that I think were probably there last year too, and great goaltending probably covered it up. And Dubois wasn't a distraction at that point either, even though he was headed for restricted free agency. Most of us were still talking about Panarin going to the Rangers and what Columbus lost with Panarin going to the Rangers. And Bobrovsky going to Florida and how, it's a good thing Columbus didn't give him that kind of money because Korpisalo and Merzlikins have been great. And that's still the case. But again, they lost a lot. And the good news for Columbus is when I look at the Dubois situation, and I've seen people say, well, this just shows nobody wants to play in Columbus, blah, 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 blah. I don't see anybody else here that wants out. I don't see like Werenski wanting out. I don't see Jones wanting out. I don't see Atkinson, Foligno. I don't see any of these guys complaining and saying they want out or they're miserable. I don't see either goaltender. All the other guys who've been up that are still with this team signed contracts. Anderson didn't want to sign for what they were offering, so they traded him. Dubois signed a 2-year contract, I think, so he would be in the lineup this year. I don't think this is going the way he foresaw that it would. I know it's not going the way Tortorella thought it would either. Tortorella wanted to get it out of the rumor mill and just say, yep, he wants out, just so they can move on. And I'm thinking now, you've kind of got to make that trade, but which team's going to work? I know a lot of teams are making those phone calls. I think it works better if it's an American team because you don't have to worry about the 14 days of quarantine if you go to Canada, but you're going to have to sit down with Dubois and make sure he's okay with it. And I mean, not just Columbus, but the other team has to sit down with them too and at least say, all right, so here's what we're thinking, and have some kind of a long-term plan. Because what's even worse is, let's just say he goes to Montreal, and then a year from now he says, I think I'd rather play somewhere else, and I've got a contract coming up, so, see? All right, so let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And again, Columbus has kind of become the team to discuss early in the season, which I did not expect. Normally you would think, well, it's going to end up being Toronto. But hey, it's Columbus. And I'd be interested to know what you guys think regarding where the issues are right now in Columbus and how to get them fixed. Because there's a lot of zeros in this line here that you would expect, but those zeros on the blue line, especially the top 2 zeros, are a bit problematic. But yeah, let me know when you think this clears up. And where do they slot into that Central now? It's kind of up in the air, right? So if Florida look as good, well, I mean, we're just against Chicago, but if Florida's as good as they've looked early, is Columbus in danger then of missing the playoffs? And then what? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.